Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really incredible story called The Persistence of a Dreamer. It's all about Michael Carter, a guy from a small town who basically just wanted to prove that, hard work can actually rewrite a person's destiny. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's dive right into his journey.
So what actually separates the ordinary from the extraordinary? It's a massive question, right? Well, growing up, Michael used to sit by his bedroom window, spending countless nights just looking up at the stars. And while he was looking out, he was imagining a future way beyond the borders of his small town. He dreamed of living in a big city, working on these dynamic, exciting projects, and, most importantly, making a truly meaningful impact on the world. Now, his parents always encouraged him to dream big, even when the people around him totally doubted his vision. But as we all know, having a dream is really just the starting line. Fast forward to right after college. Michael finally gets the call he'd been waiting for, a job offer in New York City. I mean, this was it, the golden ticket. With literally nothing but a suitcase full of clothes and a heart completely full of hope, he boards a bus and leaves his quiet, familiar hometown in the rearview mirror. I want you to try and imagine that driving, optimistic energy for a second. He's heading to this place where towering skyscrapers stretch right into the clouds, the streets are packed with people from every corner of the globe, and the energy of the city just never seems to fade.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is the stark contrast. Michael expected those towering skyscrapers and that limitless energy. But the reality? Oh, man, it was brutal. His apartment wasn't some glamorous loft. It was a tiny, incredibly expensive shoebox. And his new job wasn't just exciting. The workload was absolutely overwhelming. Every single day felt like this intense, grueling competition. Some nights, he'd get back to that tiny apartment just completely exhausted, genuinely wondering if he had made a massive, life-altering mistake by leaving everything familiar behind.
And that pure exhaustion, it leads us to a pivotal moment. Let's actually slow down here for a second to set the scene. Imagine a freezing, dark winter evening. Snowflakes are drifting down. Michael has just had a particularly defeating day at work. He doesn't even go straight home. Instead, he sits completely alone on a park bench, just staring blankly out at the city lights. For the very first time since he got off that bus with his suitcase and all his hope, he is genuinely considering giving up. We've all had those moments, right? Where you're just ready to pack it all in? But as he sits there freezing, an elderly man walks up and quietly takes his seat right beside him. After asking if Michael was having a tough day, the man just smiles and says, "I've been there."
$20. They ended up talking for nearly an hour, and the elderly man shared his own story. He told Michael that he too had arrived in New York decades earlier, and he literally only had $20 in his pocket. Think about that. Not a massive trust fund, not a fancy network of corporate contacts, $20. And he faced rejection, failure, and disappointment countless times before he finally managed to build a highly successful business. It wasn't magic, it was just an incredibly tough grind.
Before the old man got up from the park bench that snowy night, he left Michael with this exact piece of advice. Success isn't about never failing. It's about refusing to quit. I really want you to let that sink in, because this was the exact moment Michael's entire mindset shifted. Those words just anchored themselves in his brain. The doubt that had been completely clouding his vision just moments before, it began to clear out, and it was replaced by this fierce, undeniable resolve. So the very next morning, Michael walks into his office completely transformed. He isn't focusing on the overwhelming obstacles anymore. He immediately rolls out an action plan. Step 1, focus entirely on solutions. Step 2, and honestly, this is the really hard part, volunteer for the most challenging projects. Because let's be real, raising your hand for more work when you're already stressed out is terrifying. Step 3, spend free time learning new skills. And Step 4, actively build relationships with the experienced professionals around him. Slowly but surely, the months turned into years. He earned promotions, he gained the deep respect of his colleagues, and most importantly, he built up this rock-solid confidence in his own ability. Because of that newfound confidence and his willingness to dive into the hard projects, Michael hits a massive breakthrough. While he's working on a major initiative, he identifies a critical problem that basically the entire industry is struggling to solve. But here is the key difference. This is the real secret to innovation right here. While everyone else was just ignoring the problem or, clumsily working around it, Michael tackled it head on. He actually started developing an idea for a solution of his own. He didn't wait around for permission from anyone. He just started building. And the hustle was real. For 2 solid years, 2 whole years, he worked on this concept during evenings and weekends. Honestly, progress often felt completely impossible. Investors were flat out rejecting his proposals. Even his close friends were questioning if the effort was actually worth it. But he pushed through the countless revisions. He pushed through the sleepless nights to finally reach launch. He started a tech company in this tiny little office with just a few employees, where literally every single dollar and every customer mattered. And then, the explosion. Because his product solved a very real problem, word spread like wildfire. Customers multiplied, investors suddenly got very interested, and within just 5 years, his startup had exploded into one of the fastest rising tech companies in the entire country.
Now, despite the massive news features and all these business leaders inviting him to speak, Michael never forgot his roots. One afternoon, he finally heads back to his hometown. Walking those familiar streets, seeing his old, totally unchanged house, it all comes rushing back. His parents greet him with tears in their eyes. They're sitting out on the porch watching the sunset, and his mom tells him they always knew he could do it. Michael just smiles and admits it wasn't easy. And his dad? He simply replies, "Nothing worthwhile ever is." So, the crucial point is this. As darkness settles over his hometown that night, Michael is looking up at the exact same stars he admired as a kid. It's this ultimate full-circle moment. He finally realized what true success actually meant. It wasn't about the millions of dollars. It wasn't the shining industry awards. It wasn't even the thousands of employees he now managed. True success was measured by his personal growth, his unyielding perseverance, and just the sheer courage to keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when the path forward was totally uncertain. Okay, fast forward a few more years. Michael's company is absolutely thriving globally. And that leads us to this incredible scene, the Los Angeles Business Conference. Michael is standing on a massive stage, looking out at a crowd of thousands of people, young entrepreneurs, seasoned business leaders. They're all just hanging on to his every word. And somebody from the crowd asks him the million-dollar question. What is the ultimate secret behind your massive success? Michael stands there, takes a pause, and just looks at this eager audience.
He looks right at them and says, "There is no secret." But he does give them this framework. Dream big, work hard, learn from failure, stay patient, and the absolute most vital rule of all, never let temporary setbacks convince you to abandon a permanent dream. Well, the audience absolutely erupted into applause, but as Michael walked off that stage, his mind went right back to that freezing, snowy park bench in New York. He knew for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, that if he had walked away that night, absolutely none of this, the impact, the massive company, the speech, none of it would have ever happened. So what Michael really learned is that the gap between the ordinary and the extraordinary literally comes down to one simple decision, the decision to just keep going. So I'm going to pass the question to you. What is your permanent dream? And when you are faced with the cold, overwhelming realities of life, will you make the simple decision to keep going today? Think about that as you go forward. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. I really hope this look at Michael's incredible journey has empowered you to chase the extraordinary in your own life. Keep learning, keep pushing, and I'll catch you next time.